Elon Musk has finally taken over Twitter, and honestly, this is one of the best days in a long time. On Twitter, I was saying that if Elon Musk unbans all the thought leaders that have been removed, it would literally change the course of history. Twitter can now be a place where the mind of the public freely and openly shares ideas without thought crime being a punishment. You know, it's pretty crazy how all the social media platforms have been on this trajectory of trying to control what everyone thinks and what everyone's allowed to see and believe. And if you hold a certain opinion, you're removed. And it's amazing that we're finally getting leadership that's saying, enough with that crap. It's time for free speech. It's time for an open and fair discussion platform. So really happy about this. You guys know that I've spent a lot of time building up my Twitter account. And, I was always afraid of possibly being censored, my account being removed for whatever reason. And, all this time I spent building my account was at risk with all the pro-censorship stuff. And now, well, that's all changing. That is all changing. And it's such an amazing moment. And definitely, guys, I think we should all be supporting Twitter with this new change. You guys should create Twitter accounts. If you haven't already, create an account. Follow me on there. Crypto Twitter is amazing. Crypto Twitter community shares so much great insights, and I think it's a big benefit for all of you to be on Twitter. And we got to make sure that Twitter is the #1 platform, so we can give a big middle finger to all the other platforms to show them, hey, this is what the people want. We want free speech. We want fair and open discussions. We don't want censorship. That's what we got. This is a vote for free speech, guys. Get on Twitter. Let's make Twitter #1. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Kevin Svenson, and today we're going to be talking about Bitcoin and the stock market and a few other key metrics. Now, before we get started, be sure to like, subscribe, and also follow me on Twitter. If you don't have a Twitter account, create one. If you want to support free speech, get on Twitter, and let's show the other platforms what we really want, guys. And guys, the $4,000 trading deposit bonus is still available on my BitGet link below. You can click that link, sign up. There's no KYC, but if you're in the US, you do have to use a VPN. But you can, of course, get all of these rewards by using that link below. So the stock market has just closed. It's the end of the week, and we closed on a pretty high note, surprisingly, because yesterday we had Amazon earnings resulting in a 20% drop in after hours for Amazon. Facebook earnings resulting in a 25% drop in price. And it's just been really messy with the earnings. That earnings recession we talked about seems like it has begun. I think companies are going through an earnings recession, which is kind of strange because the stock market's still going up. And the last time the stock market did this rally here back in July or August, that right there was actually the stock market setting up for a Fed pivot. The market participants have been kind of delusional with this idea of a Fed pivot, right? The market pumps up, everyone's expecting a pivot, and the Fed says, guys, inflation's way out of control, we can't pivot, and then it dumps. Market comes up again, people get bullish, people expect a Fed pivot. I think the same thing is going to happen. I think we're probably going to get up here, and people are going to think we're going to get some kind of Fed pivot, and then they realize it probably won't happen, and we come down again. That's what I think is most likely. I could be wrong. In most recessions, we fall below the 200-week SMA for the S&P 500, and we are pretty much bouncing off of that right now. So I'm not too convinced that the recession's over or anything like that. I think it's more likely that we probably, the trend is your friend until the end of the trend. Probably the S&P, even if we have another 1 or 2 weeks up, and we see maybe Bitcoin even rally with that, eventually, I think we'll at least come back to test the lows, if not come down in 2023 before seeing a full recovery. Still what I think is most likely. But as you guys know on this channel, we've been looking for this recession rally. We've been waiting for this, and now it's happening. Problem is, Bitcoin isn't really following. Bitcoin's not really following on this recession rally. It is a little bit, but it's just, we're not seeing all that much speculation for Bitcoin. Not very much speculation is taking place here. And so how are we going to know if and when the bear market's over? And what I've been looking at recently is the weekly RSI, which we talked about in the last video. This is kind of the final two pieces of this puzzle to call the end of the bear market is the weekly RSI breaking out. Now, the scary thing is that if we reject the weekly RSI right here, that can sometimes result in a 50% drop. Historically, when we reject the weekly RSI, that is a 50% drop that follows, right? So it's a really kind of a make or break moment here for the bulls. So that's the first thing. We need to break out in the weekly RSI and close above it. And then also we need to break out of the macro trend line. And that is the final signal, the macro trend line breakout. Once we get above that, we can be pretty sure the bear market's over. But we're pretty far away from it. And I don't really expect all too much from this market. Best case scenario for Bitcoin right now is something like this, where we hit the low, come up, test near the low, and then rally out. Same thing with 2018. Come down to a low, test near the low, and then rally out. And right now for Bitcoin, we're kind of sitting in a similar position where we test the low, test near the low. Are we going to rally out? It's kind of a big question mark. The S&P 500 sort of has to line up with that breakout. And it's possible that, like we were saying, the recession rally continues and we get some sort of retrace back down before actually getting out of this downtrend for the S&P. And if that did happen, Bitcoin would likely come up to the macro trend line and reject, create a longer base of support, something along these lines, before breaking out. So that is sort of the best case scenario for Bitcoin right now, is kind of holding 17.5, hitting the macro trend line, breaking out in 2023. So there's a lot of time to accumulate, and there's a lot of time that we're probably going to be going sideways. And when you're in a downtrend, if people start to get really bullish, it's usually a bearish sign. So if we do end up, pumping up to this trend line here, getting some rejection there, and spending more time going sideways, and getting sort of a classic long-term low formation for Bitcoin. And what we would want to see on the weekly RSI is a breakout and a retest, something along these lines before running up. And if we get that, I think that would be a really solid long-term bottom formation. So I would say expect another half year of sideways action with some pumps and dumps in between, but not all too much. Pretty much no significant change in price for the next 6 months. Even if we do come up, we'll probably come back down to where we are now. It is the time to accumulate because we don't know where the bottom is. This could be the bottom. We could go lower, but it doesn't really matter. If you're averaging in here, and even if the market goes lower, if you're averaging in on the next low, I mean, you're going to be buying the bottom in the process of averaging in. So I think it is the time to accumulate, right? We're well below the macro trend line. And as long as you're willing to wait 6 months or a year, these are all great prices for the long term, in my opinion. Even if we are going to go lower, just make sure you have some extra cash on the side to buy the next dip if it does come in. But again, in Bitcoin history, when we hit a low, sometimes the market doesn't give you a chance to buy that low. See, that's the thing that I've been really considering, right? Just once again, I want to reiterate, like in 2015, we hit a low, you never get a chance to buy there again. Go to 2018, we hit a low, you never get a chance to buy there again. Is that going to happen now? It's possible. We hit this low, you never get a chance to buy there again. We might come up, pull back, and then break out somewhere next year. That's sort of what I'm expecting until we actually, unless the stock market crashes or something like that. Okay, then we could see Bitcoin at like 15K or as low as 10. But I'm starting to kind of doubt that we would go that low, seeing how stable Bitcoin is here. Even while the stock market was dumping to new lows, Bitcoin held. So it's pretty stable, which is a good sign. And the reason why I think the market's going to be going mostly sideways and we're not going to see all that much growth is because inflation expectations are increasing, which is not good, which means the Fed's likely going to be raising rates aggressively still. And we're probably far away from a true pivot. So we might just see the market going sideways and bottoming out for the next half year, as interest rates remain high, and then maybe sometime next year when they start to actually pivot, then we can see a really bullish trend take place. But we may be below this macro trend line for quite some time. But it is the time to be a buyer, in my opinion. It's not the time to go all in. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm also not calling the bottom per se. I'm just saying that, you know, it's more of a place to buy rather than to sell and look for lower prices. You know, Bitcoin's stable here, and I think it's being accumulated. So, you know, I would say take advantage of the low prices, but don't be too confident in any sort of narrative or direction just yet. It's still a bit of a wait and watch period. But that's kind of how I see the market right now. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to smash a like, subscribe. Also, get the $4,000 deposit bonus below by signing up for BitGet. Use that link below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.